Hey guys, it's March 2020. As we all know, we're in the age of pandemic. We've all been sheltering in place, or if you like to say, staying at home, definitely for the greater good of the world. But being at home for all this time, trapped with all the food that we've ordered, has its own pitfalls. Netflix and chill has like a whole new meaning now and could potentially be hazardous to your health. So today I've invited my friend Jana Mowrer. She's a registered dietitian and she's also a certified diabetes educator. So I want to welcome her to our Zoom chat today. Hi, Jana.
Hi.
Jana, you have been a dietitian for some time. You're also an online coach for people that need some guidance from a health and eating type of perspective.
Yeah.
So in the time of pandemic, people are at home now. And I think generally people know what it is to eat healthy, healthful, and not be healthy. But is this a good time to start like a new routine and maybe explore being a healthier person?
So I really do think it is, but maybe it looks a little bit different than when we kind of had our old routine, if you will. So one of the things that I teach my coaching clients is really we got to get curious about you and what does that look like for you. And I think right now it's okay to maybe not start a new routine, but to get curious about the routine that you would like to have. Like, what would that look like for you? A lot of people are expressing three main things. One, they feel that they're stress eating, their sleep is completely off, and they are having a lot more stress related to everything that's going on in society. And so those three things definitely compound and impact our health. And so before we kind of make the decision of, oh, I'm going to start doing this, let's stop, let's press the pause button and let's say, would this actually work for me and my lifestyle and the goals that I have for my health as well?
I know your brand is one that is not a quick fix type of methodology, which I love about what you do, because there are no kind of like, lose 50 pounds in 2 months types of diets that really do work. So when you're approaching somebody that you're coaching about the things that they're curious about, so let's say somebody says to you, I want to try, keto on. Um, is there how does one perhaps approach that in pandemic while you are kind of sheltered in your house?
Yeah. So it goes back to saying, okay, well, what aspects of keto really do you find yourself drawn to?
Mm,
So in so many ways, there's a lot of people in my profession that have shared that your eating relationship is very similar to your dating relationship. So we have to like, what do you like? What aspects work for you? What aspects don't work for you? So you have a relationship with food. Maybe it's not a good relationship and we need to start having that conversation. Or maybe you have a really good relationship with food, but we need to tweak it a little bit more. So again, it's like, okay, if you're like, okay, I really want to see what keto looks like. Okay, what aspects of keto are enticing to you?
mm.
What aspects would you like to add into your diet? Maybe it looks like, with keto, you're having more frequent meals. Okay, well, we can definitely add in more frequent meals. Maybe it looks like having a little bit more protein and a little bit higher fat at meal times, and reducing the carbohydrates. We could definitely start exploring that. So, what aspects really are intriguing to you, and what aspects would you like to add into your routine?
That's great. So it's really about what will give you, I was going to say easier path, but that might be kind of like misleading, because a lot of times when we're changing habits, it's really not easy because we're having to really, break a habit. Like, for example, if you were to tell me, hey, a specific diet's going to eliminate rice from your diet, it would just be very difficult for me because one, I love rice. Right. And so that would be a difficult type of diet for me. One that would, let's say, eliminate carbohydrates completely. Like
Right.
it would just be difficult to even start.
Yes.
And
We
more,
have to get curious about what works for you.
Right. I,
Bottom line.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a great approach because are there any diets that start with ice cream? Because
I don't know, but I would be the first one to sign up for it. I would try that one out.
yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like you and me both, you know,
Yeah. Well,
ice
and
cream.
so here's
wine.
the thing too. Like I always say, like what is a way that we can add a healthier behavior in
Mhm.
versus take something out? Our minds as humans love feeling like we are getting something
Yeah.
versus they absolutely hate when they feel like things are being taken away from us. So I always describe it to my coaching clients as, especially if they have kids, if you tell your child, don't do that, what's
Right.
the first thing that they want to do? They want to like go touch it, right?
Right.
We
Yeah.
are just grown up children. And when someone says we can't do something, even more so, we
Right.
want to go do that.
Yeah.
So how can we add in a healthier behavior versus thinking about all these different things that we need to eliminate?
I love that type of mindset because it's really like utilizing our own view of incentive, right? Like we're more likely to do something if there's a positive incentive
Right.
rather than, like you said, like taking something away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can be pretty discouraging when you tell somebody, oh, okay, we're going to eat healthier, and this is the first thing you're going to do. You can't eat this, you can't eat this. Like you're already discouraged.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Well, great.
It's all about mindset.
I love that. I love that. So really, if you're going to try something new because it is pandemic, look at the things that we'll say are that either attract you to a specific either way of eating or a new lifestyle choice you're trying to create, and start with that. Look
Yeah.
at like the things that you want to add to your life rather than take away.
Yeah, exactly. And like a lot of people have expressed right now, they've really been thinking about things that they thought were essential to their routine really were not.
Hmm.
And so it's a very kind of introspective time of saying, like, essentially determining like what was essential and what was not. And so if you've determined that that thing that you were spending a lot of your time on really wasn't essential, how can we remove that and redirect it into something that is going to be essential and is going to help you live your best possible life? Because that's the goal. The goal is to feel really good. That's the bottom, like that's what we're working towards.
Great. Yeah. No, I think it's definitely a good time to take inventory of, like you said, like what is essential, what is not essential, and a lot of us, I think, if you're mindful, you discover it during this time. So a really good time to kind of hone in on that. I know for the folks that suffer from COVID-19 and the people that have been dying from it, a lot of them have been people that have been obese or people that have diabetes. So I think even just being mindful of that particular statistics really points to the fact how important nutrition is and staying healthy is and keeping up a strong immune system is to fighting disease. What can you tell us about the role of nutrition and our immune system?
Yeah. So those individuals are at higher risk as well as individuals that have any lung conditions. So even if you have asthma, you're considered at higher risk,
Mm.
and that's because it's considered a chronic stressor on the system. And so when we add one more thing to the system, it's not able to regulate itself the way it should or fight off disease the way that it should. And so when we already have a suppressed immune system, when we already have chronic inflammation, when we already have chronic stress, the body is at its limits. And so that's even more so where, living a healthy lifestyle, whatever that may look like for you. So typically having a more well-balanced diet, getting more physical activity, getting sleep, managing your stress is all very helpful because it reduces those inflammatory markers. It allows your body to function the way that it was meant to function, and it allows us to be able to fight off disease that maybe we would not be able to if we were not taking care of it. So we can't boost our immune system, but we can support our immune system. And so that's where nutrition, that's where exercise, that's where hydration, it all comes into supporting our immune system during this time.
Right. And that could be the incentive too, to begin. Like if you have been not eating so well, knowing that we can support our immune system and potentially fight either COVID-19 or really any other type of ailment, uh, could be a good motivation to start now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned stress. I know, watching the news cycle and just being cooped up in your home is very stressful. And first of all, why do we stress eat? Like, why is that a natural response for our body and our psyche? What's happening?
We stress eat because we feel at loss of control. So whether it be like having an eating disorder or disordered eating or just using food as a coping mechanism to deal with emotional things, um, we do so at a higher rate when we feel out of control. And right now, we are not in control of a lot of things that are impacting us. And so, what I work on with coaching clients is moving the realms of what is out of your control that we can move into your control, and then managing the other aspects with a lot of different modalities. So that could be, exercising, that could be sleep, that could be meditation, it could be prayer, whatever that looks like for you, those uncontrolled factors. But also finding ways, so when we are in these situations, we feel out of control, therefore we feel overwhelmed and we don't know the next best step.
Mm.
So that's where we make a list and we say, okay, list out all the things that you feel like you don't have control over. And I guarantee you probably more than half of those things on the list are actually things that you do have control over. So then we start working on moving those things that you feel out of control into your control. And they're little steps. So it could be, I'm going to wake up at the same time every morning, or I'm going to go to bed at a decent hour, or I'm going to turn off the TV, or I'm going to do a social media cleanse
Mhm.
because it is a stressor in my life. So these are all things where maybe we feel we don't have control, but we really do have control over those things when we really break them down.
Right, right. Yeah, like sometimes I need a social media cleanse myself every like 2 to 3 days and just kind of, turn it off and work on the garden or, do something creative just so that it doesn't heighten my own stress response. Um, the, the,
So I'll just add, so your diet is more than what's on your plate.
oh, is it? Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, like your diet is everything that you are consuming.
Ah, okay.
So yes, it's the foods that you're consuming, but it's, the people that you have around you, because a lot of people are like, really, I chose these people to be around for this long, like they're really struggling with being around people that long.
Yeah.
Or it's the music that you listen to, it's the news that you tune into, it's the social media platforms that you're watching. This is all part of your diet. It's all part of what you are putting into your body. So it's not just about the food on your plate that impacts your overall health and wellness and your weight. So we have to really look at it from a much larger whole person perspective.
Right. Yeah, totally, like mind, body, spirit, like the whole person. And that's very encouraging to hear. Like a lot of times I think of, a dietitian and only thinking about food. But really, in our conversation, I'd say a lot of it has not only been about food, but you're telling me, or anything that we consume, whether it's through our eyes or through our ears, the company we keep, are just as important.
Yeah. Yeah. Your environment matters.
Wow. Okay. That makes a huge. I know that's making a huge impact in terms of the way I'm even thinking about diet now as a more holistic, larger universe. Not just as you said, the food that's on my plate. It's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
You sent me a text where it showed some of the things that have spiked in kind of buying at the grocery stores. Some of them being things like canned canned meats, preserved meats, a lot of preserved type of products. Here, let me read here. Um, Currently, I don't know how to use my phone at the moment. Here we go. Um, So things like beans and rice seem, healthy enough if you have a kind of like a healthy life. But what other things here have gone up? Things like snack foods have definitely gone up, like, popcorn and chips and chocolate and ice cream have definitely gone up by like double digits in terms of what we're buying from the stores, as well as like dry, canned tunas, soups, a lot of prepared foods, and meat and meat substitutes. When we're talking about like packaged goods from a grocery store, are there things that we should be watching out for when we are looking at either prepared foods in the frozen aisle or canned foods or prepared foods? We can't make a blanket statement that that is all unhealthful. I'm sure some of it is quite good, but what should we be looking for when we are eating some of these prepared and packaged foods?
Yeah, I mean, even like from a frozen food perspective, they found that frozen foods, fruits and vegetables actually have more nutrients in them because of when they're harvested and then they I always flash freeze them and it seals in the nutrients versus, more fresh items have spent longer time on the truck. And so their nutrients kind of go down based on the time that it's taken from the field and gone to us in grocery stores. So there's a lot of misnomers about canned food or frozen food in general. So it can definitely be part of a very well-balanced diet and something that can still continue to nourish your body during this time. Some of the things that we want to look out for are added sugars and added salts. And also fat composition of the food. So typically, like the things that you mentioned, a lot of people are snacking more on chips and cookies and ice cream. Those are going to be higher in fat. And while fat is good and we need fat for our body, typically those are more trans fats or saturated fats that we still need to have within a very well-balanced diet and can typically add in more calories per serving. So the old saying of like Pringles, once you pop, you don't stop. It's true. Like, I mean, I don't know many people that can just have one Pringles chip. It's not happening.
Yeah.
So those are snack items that generally and it makes sense. One, they taste good.
Right.
And two, they actually make us feel better from a brain chemistry perspective. So it actually helps release endorphins, the feel-good endorphins, so we feel better. So if we are feeling anxious or overwhelmed or sad, and we turn to this food, it's going to give us a temporary sense of, oh, I feel better. So that makes sense to me. So when we are looking at canned foods or frozen foods or whatnot, we just really want to look at the labels and see, have they added in additional salt? So salt is a preservative. They use that all the time for shelf stable abilities. I don't think it was done in a bad fashion, but we were able to stabilize food and it lasted longer. So even from a financial perspective, these canned foods or these shelf stable items are going to be very beneficial for us financially as well. So some different ways for the beans, you could wash off the salt. So you drain them, wash them off, and it gets rid of a lot of the salt that's used to, again, preserve the beans. And then also when you're looking for no added sugar or items that are canned in their own juices, that's beneficial because, again, it doesn't have all that added substance to it. So there's still a lot of ways that we can find that balance between eating foods that we enjoy, but then also keeping our health in mind.
That's great. Yeah, I didn't know about that study that showed that frozen foods can actually retain more of its nutrients. So I'll have to eat more frozen veggies.
Yeah, frozen veggies, fruit smoothies can be really good too right now. Again, there's a lot of different options. So just because they are like, I think that there's been this like big misnomer that the only way that you can get healthy is if you eat organic and everything fresh and raw. And that's not true. I mean, think about it in this pandemic too. Like, not everyone can buy organic right now.
Right.
You need to eat. You need to sustain your body, and we need to nourish our body. And so if that's something that needs to kind of go by the wayside for this moment, that's okay too.
Right. And you can still do it in a healthy way. Because I know people around the world, really, not just Americans, are suffering a great financial burden right now. And, whether or not you receive your stimulus check is kind of short-sighted. We're still in some sort of financial type of stress. So, buying like organic stuff it may not be the best option, but what you're saying is you don't have to buy the organic foods necessarily. Just eat some, even frozen vegetables would give you massive amounts of nutrition.
Yeah, and thinking of it, what works for your pocketbook too. I mean, a
Mm,
whole banana is 29 cents.
right.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Some places I found as low as 19. So I mean, like, there's things that we can incorporate into our lifestyle that don't have to cost us a lot of money, but are still contributing to our health and well-being.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Last question for you. We all love to, binge watch, whether it's Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Apple TV, and whatnot. When you're, cooped up, you're in pandemic mode, stay at home mode, and you're binge watching something. What are your favorite go-to snacks to watch movies or series to?
Oh gosh, I thought you were going to ask me shows, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm willing to give that up.
Right.
Um, I'm a texture person when it comes to eating. And so that's another thing of learning, like, what type of eater you are. So I like things that are crunchy.
Yeah.
And so I've found that instead of having potato chips, I've substituted it for pretzels.
Okay.
One, you get a much larger serving, and two, the pretzels don't have as much fat in them, but you still get the crunch and you still get the saltiness, and it still tastes pretty dang good.
Yeah.
So I'll probably almost always go to the pretzels and some cheese, variety of different cheeses. I think that's probably my go-to if I'm kind of watching TV.
Right. Some binge watching. Very
Mm-hmm.
good. Yeah. Mine are going to be, I like popcorn, and usually just popcorn and butter. And I do like ice cream, usually towards the middle of the movie. And and I like to doctor up my ice cream. So either I'm throwing in popcorn into it, or I'm throwing in like some potato chips, and it can go the whole gamut. Like sometimes I really like blueberries and ice cream for some reason, because I like kind of the slight tartness to it. And ice cream flavor wise, it's usually like Chunky Monkey from Ben and Jerry's. But I usually go with just like 2 scoops max, and and really enjoy it. Like I like to savor it, and I think that's also a good kind of rule of thumb, is to like savor your food, especially if you're eating things that are very rich, like ice cream and chips. In my case,
Yeah, be present with it. Enjoy it. Like, I mean, if we enjoy eating so much, how come we're so disconnected from it in the time? Like, so yeah, really enjoy it. And that's what I love about you too. Like, you're such a decadent eater. Like, everything is just like so rich and vibrant. And that's how eating should be experienced.
yeah, absolutely. Like I try not to deny myself any food. Instead, I look at it as something that I can control, either the portion, the amount, or the frequency of eating. But if I say, hey, like my nickname used to be the Cake Boy, because I love cake, like, and I still do. Like on my birthday, I still buy my own whole cake, and I don't eat the whole thing. I share it with people. But
Sure.
yeah. The point is, I think if you can look at food in a way that is really like a tool to give us, as you said, more happiness, right? Because that's the goal, like to feel our best. And whether it's a bunch of broccoli, or if it's ice cream, how do we use those tools to make us feel our best, and live our best life? I think that's really the key. So I try not to look at anything as like, oh, that's bad for me. I
Right.
see it as, you know what, hey, a bowl of ice cream is just so enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, and I love to just like keep it so real. Like, let's be honest. on some days, that bowl of ice cream is going to benefit your health more than a bowl of broccoli. Like, like,
Hallelujah.
right? Like, I mean, I think we just have to get really, really honest with that and say, you know what? Today, this bowl of ice cream is just so contributing to my health and well-being. But tomorrow is a new day and I'm going to get back on it. You know, like, it doesn't have to be this like good or bad. It's an ebb and flow. It's flexibility with consistency. It is enjoying the eating experience and nourishing your body.
Right. And not having to create any guilt too.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. You've really given us some perspective on like eating during the pandemic and the stay-at-home quarantine time for us. Where can people find information about your coaching programs and any type of resources that you think are important for people to reach out to?
Yeah, so a couple different things. They can go to my website at healthwins.org. And that has a lot of different information about my coaching and kind of my style of coaching as well. I also do have a free COVID-19 well-being guide that I'm sending out to, you know, individuals that are just curious of like, what does this look like for me? And so this well-being guide was created to support individuals during this time. And then I'm on social media, both Instagram and Facebook. You can find me at Jana Mowrer or at Everyday Health Wins.
Great. And we'll put them in the notes for this video too, so people can reach out to you if they have any additional questions or they need a health coach. That they really, you can coach anybody from all over the world, because like this whole telecoaching is the way it's that you've been doing it.
Yeah. Yep.
Fantastic.
Definitely.
Well, thanks again for your time. Stay safe and be well out there. And I'll keep eating my ice cream and broccoli.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Jenna.